So, Chad and Jeremy, two people couldn't be further away from on the spectrum at Authenticom. I'm new. You're a legend, chief product officer, and me, the new director of digital strategy.
Yeah.
Chad, and like, here's the thing too. I also am learning a lot about our products. We have a lot of products, tons. And I challenged Lindsay at one point. I said, don't show me any products and don't tell me about any products until the content we produce can tell me what the products are. And I'm really hoping that this little exchange between you and I not only helps build my knowledge of what record recharge is, but we have a conversation in a way with our customers and that we currently have and customers that we want end up understanding better what record recharge is in the whole story. So let's just start off with the ground zero. In one or two sentences, Chad, tell me what record recharge is.
Great question, Jeremy. I'm happy to educate the audience on what record recharge really is, right? Yeah. Record recharge is a data transformation and enrichment suite. That is, we take data that's provided to us by our clients and enrich it with a bunch of different attributes, allowing for those customers to be more targeted and deliberate in terms of their marketing execution and strategy.
So I'm glad you sort of ended that description in that way, because this is the thing I'm always searching for with our team is if I'm a dealer, like a dealer principal, okay, I own a dealership and I've never heard of this. What problem does this solve for me?
You know, so much of the data that dealerships end up receiving through most of your lead forms and things to that effect contain a bunch of garbage, right? That is, somebody's putting fictitious addresses, they're putting email addresses that are wrong. They might be only providing the bare minimum pieces of information that really don't provide the ability to reach back out, right? Maybe they're just not serious. Maybe they're just shopping. I mean, there's a whole bunch of use cases in just the lead enrichment space that we end up solving for, right? If they give a valid email address, we're able to go ahead and append the phone number so that they have additional methods by which they can contact that lead to really measure their interest and get them onto the lot to sign on the line that is dotted.
Nice. I like that. Okay, so, and I'm going to be sort of alluding to where this conversation is going. How long has this technology existed inside of the Authenticom platform?
The solution itself has been in place since early 2014. So we have a very mature product. The product itself, though, has really been sort of behind the scenes. What I would say, it's been trapped in the back office. My charge, I guess, as chief product officer is to bring these products into the front office, right? With the help of people such as yourself and the digital strategy to promote these capabilities that we have and make them visible online, right? That is to provide the necessary awareness that we require so that our clients know that it's part of our capabilities. I think we've done a good job of promoting certain things that we've done and done well for 20 plus years. Record recharge itself has always been a bit of a tuck-in. So essentially we've just overhauled the entire suite. We have strategic partnerships that allow us to get to household information, demographic information. You know, there's just a wide berth of things that we're able to do, and we're enriching the data on behalf of the clients that we represent currently, and certainly targeting a wider spectrum of clients going forward, right? We've been a one-trick pony essentially in automotive. Record recharge really expands the capabilities to certainly address the current market in automotive, but also it's designed and developed clever enough to be able to go ahead and scale across multiple industries.
So let's go back to that. So the designed and developed, let's talk about the development. So we're talking over a decade. How old this platform is. Like we've existed for a long time. What was it originally built to do? Like, was it a product, or was it just part of the platform and you realized there's this entity living within our platform we need to do something with?
Yeah, if I think back to 25 plus years in my career, right? I think back to what was that like 15 years ago? It was list cleanups. There were just
oh my God, yeah, that gave me PTSD. List cleanups.
Like literally, I want to say that the product itself was called List Cleanup.
No way.
And it was, for sure. I think it was. And so that was a burgeoning industry in early 2000s into 2010. And again, it was just a slight pivot outside of what we do in data syndication, right? If you think about our core business, right, it's providing access to vendors and subscribers who dealerships approve access to extract that data from the DMS and provide turnkey solutions that these vendors sell to the dealers, right?
Right.
To help improve the marketing tactics, the predictable analytics, and a chasm of different things that the clients we currently support provide to the dealerships. So it wasn't too far of a pivot for us to move from syndication into list cleanup. So that's where it's, I think that's where it really got its start. Branding.
The primary problem it was solving back then was list cleanups.
Correct. And most notably DNC. Compliance became, and it's always been something that we needed to be mindful of, right? Whether we're securing the data on behalf of the dealer, providing restricted access to only the clients that the dealer wants us to provide that data to underneath their approval. So it was, when we get into the marketing side, of course, the DNC, the opt-outs and things to that effect, leveraging relationships and partners we have with third-party data providers, we were able to extract that information, match or append it to lists that they provided to us so that they knew that they couldn't outbound dial this client or this particular prospect or this lead or this customer, right? Or at least not through that particular medium, right? Maybe they've opted out of phone, but they hadn't opted out of email. So these list cleanup services that were previously performed, going on 20 years ago, we're certainly cutting edge, but boy, have we come a long way in a short amount of time, right?
It sounds like it's an incredible long way that you've come. So walk me through the scale of this. This is over a decade, an accumulation of it. Like, how big is this data? Walk me through the scale.
Sure. The data's enormous, right? Last year, I think if I think back to, I think we did some analysis in 2025 that was over 13 billion records that we processed through record recharge.
13 billion.
13 billion. That's
Okay.
true. Yeah. So it's the epitome of big data. Like that was the soundbite well before, like 10 years ago, everybody was talking about big data, and then it transferred into CDP, right? And then it's, becomes, the next thing, which is MCP services. Everybody talks about that. And then of course, now we're in this age of AI and what we can do in a data transformation space to create predictable analytics from the data that the dealerships in this particular example have and have stored with us for, 20 years.
And I don't want to get ahead of myself because I'm going to be landing on AI. Wait, At what point did someone look at 13 billion data points and say, like, we have a product here, like that can be bigger than what it currently is? Was that recent or was that a while ago?
Yeah, I mean, we've been the scale of the product itself really has, evolved quite a bit over the last 15 years, as you can imagine, right? From list cleanup services for DNC to, phone type indicators, right? To know that you're talking to a mobile phone versus landline. That would have been, maybe an evolution of,
Right.
somewhere between 15 and 10 years ago. And now we're looking at, household demographics. How many children are there? The head of household, how old is he or she? To income ranges, right? To be able to go ahead and get targeted at at a family income range between $150,000 and $300,000. The segmentation of the data has really been that next evolution that we've seen, and that's really cultivated or manifested itself in the scale that we've been able to achieve to process nearly 13 or over 13 billion records in 2025.
I have to assume that we track, like, if you've got kids, we want to know how old they are so we can start helping our dealers market to them when those kids are turning 16 and getting ready to start driving on their own.
Yeah, there's never been a more important time for our solutions to really move the needle for the clients that we represent. And the big one that you touched on there, Jeremy, is exactly right, which is customer lifetime value and being able to get to that audience as soon as possible, right? I have a 22-year-old, if you can believe it, who is getting, Subaru mailings because there's some brand loyalty within the household as it relates to Subaru. So, these sorts of things that are happening are not a mistake, right? These aren't by accident. They're very deliberate, very intentional, and the data at our disposal really allows us to provide that degree of targeting that the market obviously requires.
So I've been a part of a lot of startups, the founder of a few startups, and I've always had a man like you to the right of me. And whenever we're about to launch a new product or a new massive feature upgrade, it involves conversations with customers. Did we talk to dealers and understand their needs a little bit better before we dug into this project?
Absolutely not.
So I call that rapid prototyping. When I don't talk to them, I just think, no, I'm smart enough to handle this. I just call it rapid prototyping. And that, to be honest, can come with a vast array of industry knowledge and understandings. But
totally right.
like,
Your question's
two
spot on.
paths. Yeah.
The feedback we've been able to solicit from our current portfolio of clients has been incredibly important to developing our roadmap, as you can imagine.
Yeah,
right? We have relationships with dealers. I just looked at this the other day. In fact, the average tenure of the dealership, is somewhere between 7 and 8 years that we've actually maintained a relationship with a dealership, right? And then when you have that relationship, we have 2 ears, one mouth for a reason. We really, really try and be a good listener insofar as those cues that the dealerships and the contacts within those, dealerships, the principals and large dealer groups have been able to go ahead and provide to us. And that has set the table. I mean, the partnerships we have with some of the largest dealer groups in the United States, we've embodied that within Record Recharge, for sure, that feedback, to the point where a lot of that segmentation now that exists within the actual tool set itself can be tailored to automotive industry. It can be tailored to transportation, communications. Some of that was the artifact that we were getting from the dealerships themselves, being able to go ahead and market into near auto opportunities, partnerships, things to that effect. We've been certainly trying to be, and we've been a good listener along the way, for sure.
That's good. You're confident. So I can tell you're confident that you're a good listener and this is the right direction for us. So this is a sort of a moonshot question. What do you see in the data that you don't think the dealers were seeing in their own system? Was there something that you discovered along the way that like a kind of a Eureka moment on data points where when we give this back to the dealer, things are going to change?
For me, the Eureka moment was being able to understand brand loyalty and return service appointment, right? These were sort of the first things that I kind of observed from the data itself, looking at it again through a very specific dealership or a dealer group lens, right? Which is the propensity for somebody who leased or purchased a new vehicle and how often they would come back for service, right? The thesis, of course, is pretty sound, right? When you're leasing a vehicle, you're going to go ahead and service the vehicle right where you lease it from.
Yep.
I thought there'd be a correlation that would be far less in terms of new vehicle delivery and the amount of service appointments that would be translated as a result. So being able to go ahead and compare those two universes and understand the relationship of the data to further behaviors downstream over the 36 to 48 month period was really fascinating for me. I mean, to be able to go ahead and see how strong a relationship exists between the dealership and the customer. Second one, I think, is just brand loyalty, right? Being able to go ahead and see this through a specific brand and see that repeat customer, right? That I think, really instills in us something that's probably known, that there is brand loyalty within the actual space itself. But the data don't lie. Right. And to be able to see that and supported by the data itself was something I think I thought I knew, but I didn't really have any data to support it. And to be able to see that data manifest, pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. And brand loyalty. So when does a dealer have a full optic into the automotive ownership journey of a customer through this platform? Like if I'm a Hyundai owner and I go through 4 models and suddenly I flip to Volkswagen, does Volkswagen get to see I'm picking brands out of the sky here. Do they get to see that full journey? Like they understand, like this guy went sedan, SUV, and now he's in an EV. Like, do you get to see that? Are those important data points?
They're incredibly important. I can only imagine, the relationship we have with the dealerships is super unique, right? Which is we maintain a level of security that exists between us and the dealership, right? And so being able to see brand switching is something that is not necessarily our core principal focus, right? Because data aggregate is something that we take quite seriously, but at the same time, we need to go ahead and maintain the right to that data that we have on behalf of the dealership that we represent. We have approval to their data. So what we do see though, and kind of per your question, right, is let's say that there's a customer who's been brand loyal for, a 9-year period and then goes dry, right? Haven't seen him for 6 years or whatever. Because again, we've had some of these relationships up to 20 years, right? Being able to provide those levels of insights into, has there been a switch, right? Have they moved from sedan to truck or, light duty, or have they actually moved from, in your example, to Hyundai or EV, right? The big ones that we're actually seeing a lot of. Given the fact that my sort of focus is towards the dealership and the data that we have on hand, right? My current tact is to be able to go ahead and provide what I call instances of analytics. I'm not the smartest person, Jeremy, in the world. However, I'm using Authenticom intelligence and DXM to provide insights to the dealership for the data that the dealership provides to me on a daily basis, so they can make more predictive decisions based upon what the data tells them historically, right? So when you've had the long-standing relationships we've had with dealerships, our ability to provide those instances of analytics is ratcheted up greatly. They might go through vendors often, right? But we're sort of that tried and true steady Eddie that's always been there to provide the data to whatever partner they're looking for. While at the same time, we're actually now in a position to provide information back to the dealership at scale that they hadn't seen before in this space for certain.
Wow. So this is a robust understanding that you're providing for me here. And the one thing you made me think of is all of this jumping, like from dealership to dealership or brand to brand, or even within a dealership. You said, like, if a dealership switches their DMS a couple times, and these periods where people go quiet, like we'll refer to it as ghost data, does Authenticom record recharge help recover optics into those periods for a dealer?
When you talked about the Eureka moment, right? I think that was another one that really kind of comes to mind, Jeremy, which was we were approached by a dealer who was moving DMS, right? Within our portfolio, we see that happening, dozens of times a month, right? From, again, having, nearly 75% of the addressable market of retailers underneath management in our network right now. And so when there is a DMS change, right, we become aware of it fairly quickly, right, as the company that's responsible for extracting and syndicating the data at the approval of the dealership. So when a dealer approached us and said, hey, listen, we're moving from, this DMS to this DMS, and I want to make sure my data is good. I don't want all that junky data in my brand spanking new DMS, right? Is there anything you guys can do, right, on that particular front? And we have found a very captive audience in that space specifically, right? That we are able to take all of the DMS data that we've already have on hand for them, run it through record recharge, clean it up and append it so that when they actually make the full migration to the new DMS, they can do so with pristine data, given the fact that we've cleaned it up along the way.
So that makes a move like that far more palpable for a dealer when they're making that type of investment. It would be kind of crazy not to use record recharge to make sure your new investment is fully charged and ready to go.
Fully charged. I like that. You should be in digital strategy.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying.
I'll give you a real use case, right? Which is one of the things we found when performing this exercise for a large dealer group. And this is, about a year and a half ago now. But a lot of the records that they would have historical, right? You had 7 to 10 years worth of data that we had on hand for this particular dealer group. And going through there and being able to identify Chad Risinga, at a previous work address and a previous phone number, right? A work phone number, for example, right? From a service appointment from, 10 or 15 years ago. I mean, having that history is absolutely critical when they're moving to the new DMS, right? But what we're able to do is to go ahead and, again, look at that contact that exists in the DMS and update it to the most recent address that we have, right? That could be the mailing address. Like part of what we have is we have a close relationship with the U.S. Postal Service to be able to go ahead and append the change of address information either in the last 18 or 48 months. So a good example of being able to go ahead and make sure that those mailers that came from the dealership are actually going to the right audience, right? So, I mean, I've moved 3 times in the last 10 years. I'm sure you're probably not in too different of a spot, right? But our ability to provide the most recent address for a given contact is obviously just one of a myriad of use cases we have when going through a conversion, for sure.
Wow. So our new version of Record Recharge.
Yeah.
Let's walk through a dealership. They've engaged with us. They're into the platform. This isn't self-serve. This is concierge. Let's walk through what does this look like for them? How do they they engage with our team, sign on the dotted line, as you say, and here we are. We're about to make their lives a lot better. Walk me through what this rollout looks like.
Couple of good use cases there, right? We have an existing business relationship with, the majority of dealerships in the United States and Canada, right? So, one use case is we've been managing the data on their behalf for a number of years. So what we would be asking them for is they don't need to provide us the data. We have the data. We're really only asking for permission, approval, right? And, to enter into contract with us to recharge their data. A very low drag and friction-free experience for anybody who's a current dealership that works with us today, right? The other side of the coin from a recharge perspective are, dealerships or any other entity in any other industry who wants to use us in a data hygiene capacity. The ability for us to take, a flat file of a million records, right? And process that data through our hygiene solution and be able to go ahead and spit out a appended clean file, right? Deduplicated and everything, in minutes, right? Is really the differentiation or what this new version of Record Recharge provides. You can imagine the maturity cycle of technology is constantly moving forward and evolving. Our legacy solution has done a bang up job for a long time in being able to service this particular or to provide this service to the automotive industry. We've completely refactored the platform, right, to be more adaptable, more plug and play, to be able to go ahead and incorporate other dimensions of data to essentially create better data from the data they had today. So maybe our first generation was really focused in on, the cleaning up of the data. Now it's layering in additional fields, additional metrics, additional fields to the data to make better, more educated decisions.
What can you give me a couple of examples of additional fields? Like, are we talking like a customer's social channels, like, their Instagram account or their YouTube channels, their LinkedIn profile? Like, what are we looking at?
So great question, as always. I was just pulling up, our segmentation descriptions. We have 171 segments, unique segments that we are actually using when we're appending the data. We could be talking about a segment. I'll just choose one, which is, moderate income city, older homeowners without children. That would be that would be one of the 171 segments. What does that actually mean? That their average income range is between $40,000 and $60,000. They are between the ages of the head of household is between 50 and 64. They are homeowners without children who live in the city. And that city has an average to low cost of living. That's just one segment that we actually have of the 171 at our disposal.
That in its entirety, what you just said is one of 171 data segments.
That's correct.
That sounded like 7 segments to me. That's great. Okay, so these are 3-dimensional segments.
Oh, for sure. Like if I'm looking at urbanicity, for example, right? Yeah. The valid value I have there in, that is related to each of these 171 would be city, rural, suburban, urban, and urban core, right? That's just one of, the actual segments or the values of the 171. If I get into the regional cost of living, right, I could be like average to low cost of living or high cost of living. Home ownership and renter, right? That's pretty straightforward. Homeowner and a renter and just the renter. The
Right.
age range, of course, right? I think we know where the baby boomers traditionally land insofar as age range and as well, wealth, right? Do premium brands want to basically target people who are 65 plus? If you're selling expensive watches, if you're, working in a community and you want to actually inspire volunteerism and you want to enrich that data with better address information for direct mail. The myriad of different use cases we have for the data we have on hand is almost limitless at this point.
So one of my mistakes in understanding this product, even a couple of weeks ago, was I thought this was taking our old platform, repackaging it, slapping up a dashboard and handing the keys to the dealer. And I was, rightly corrected a couple of days ago. This is a concierge platform. So it sounds quite deliberate that this is not a self-serve platform. What could go wrong if it was?
It's a good question. There's a degree of not just compliance and security, right, that we've taken incredibly serious, right? Compliance, as you know, Jeremy, has become a really hot topic over the last really maybe 9 to 12 months. The FCC coming through and establishing these fines of I think it's $70,000 if there's some misleading information about the cost of a given vehicle that's being advertised online. Would be one example.
The other day, that's wild.
These are the things that we really try and make sure we are providing dealership as much guidance as well as real life solutions to. In a compliance capacity, being able to look at the sales data and then, again, with partnerships we have, be able to, use the data that comes from what the online web price was to identify where there's a potential gap, right? The relationship we have with the dealership is built on trust. The dealerships trust us to securely manage and store their data. And we take that incredibly seriously, right? We don't take and send the data to anybody who the dealership hasn't approved access to. And similarly, when the dealership logs into our products like DealerVault or Activate and Certify, we really do provide a concierge service so that they're able to go ahead and limit or eliminate access to the data right there in our products and solutions, right? And so that sort of concierge or self-service is something that we've certainly embodied within the product itself. That said, we do recognize that the ability to append or to enrich data in the wrong hands with malicious actors, given the amount of segmentation and demographic data, is something that we take quite seriously, right? We want to really provide a concierge service only after we've established a rapport and relationship with the people we want to expose this record recharge solution to, right? So in as much as we could, obviously make this available on a turnkey capacity, enter a credit card, we'll verify that you are who you say you are, and then you're off and running. We take this far more serious, right? We want to establish a relationship with this business, right? And validate that the business is legitimate. And then to provide the keys to the self-service that a lot of the dealerships, as well as the DSPs in our space, they do desire, the ability to cleanse the data, right? It can be a very crowded space. We're being very deliberate and intentional about who we market this to, and really establishing a relationship with that contact for long-term relationships, right? To maximize customer lifetime value. And these are the theses or the pillars of the DXM suite, if you will, within Authenticom, right? Connect. Drive.
Let's talk a little bit about risk. Like let's say a dealer did have, we did attempt like an A/B test even and said, let's let a cohort of dealers try this themselves. Like, what's the downside risk? Like you had mentioned the other day about the gap between listed pricing and sales price. If it's too big, There's fines associated with that. I'm assuming when we get in sort of with our white glove service here, we're making sure we highlight problems that could cost them, whether it's serious fines or serious gaps in projected revenue. Is that, I mean, to me, that if I was a dealer, like I have famously have the attention span of a walnut when it comes to this. Get me to sign the dotted line. I would sign up and be paying whatever per month. And I'd be like, oh, great, my own dashboard. I would kick that can down the road for 2 months before I got into it. But this sounds like a white glove service where you might be highlighting a problem a dealership barely even knows that they're exposed to, let alone actually have. Am I reading this wrong?
No, you're spot on. Under our DXM pillars, this would fall under predict, right? Okay. The ability to go ahead and provide this instances of analytic to the dealership about where there are potential compliance gaps, right? So given the fact that the FTC is imposing penalties at the dealership level, there's never been a time that it's been more apparent that we are in a position to provide in our predict pillar of DXM, the information that the dealer principals, as well as F&I mean, any particular role within the actual dealership, to the potential for the issues that you just mentioned, right? The listed price online being significantly different than it is when they roll it out because there's additional fees, right? Yep. And so these are things that that record recharge fits well within, and the things that we're actually bringing to the table in our next generation of products, which this is the first of at least 3 that we're going to be coming out with over the next 6 to 12 months. So
exciting. This is one thing I've known in the 8 short months that I've been with Authenticom is I realize how much of a relationship company that this is. And everyone takes pride in relationships, not only with each other and the fellow teammates, but with our customers. And I got a feeling this concierge sort of service, not only service, but this attitude that's going to be probably carried forward into your next products is an important part of us getting our customers the results and the outcomes that we're promising them.
Totally right.
Yeah.
In fact, I was literally just looking at it earlier this morning for some particular campaigns that are going out to support record recharge. And we have at the moment just shy of 40,000 dealership contacts in our CRM, right? Wow. Those are, long-standing relationships in some cases, brand spanking new if they're new to a dealership, in the last couple of days. But the relationships that we have and have cultivated over the years that Authenticom has been in business are some of the most important ones we have for our business, as you can imagine, right? Till now, we really have been perceived, I think, from a dealership perspective as just conduit, right? Yep. Plumbing. A to B. I got the data over here. You go and send it over to, this particular approved vendor, right? Makes sense. But we're transforming ourselves, right? We're almost like reinventing ourselves in some capacity, right? We're trying to bring additional value-added services to the dealership, right? And that's our next generation of products, right? What can we do to help improve upon the efficiency of the dealerships?
We're going from conduit and the plumbing to the kitchen table.
We're going from
where all the nutrition lives. This is what I like.
In my fireside chats I host here on a quarterly basis, I said we're moving from the back office to the front office.
Nice.
And I truly believe that.
So a year from now, we're going to get some of our 40,000 contacts. Let's hope we get a few thousand of them into the platform. A year from now, what does their life look like?
So there's a couple of different aspects of record recharge. One of which we're embodying within a new product that is coming out sometime this year, which we're kind of labeling a DV Plus, right? DealerVault Plus, an enhanced version of DealerVault, the product that's been there for a long time. And so, if you think about what Recharge provides today, it really is tailored more to that one-time event, right? Yeah. You send me 250,000 records, I'm going to go ahead and process those in short order, append a whole bunch of the information to the file, send it back to you or send it back to the CRM or work through how it is that you want that data to be indoctrinated within the actual systems of the actual dealership as well. But we do millions and millions of transactions, every month that are on behalf of the dealership, right? We send the sales, the service, the RO, right? We send that over to the vendors. And so part of what Recharge will also do is to be able to recharge that data at runtime.
Okay.
Meaning, if I'm already syndicating the data, right, I'm already sending it to an approved vendor on behalf of the dealership. One of the things that we're going to be leveraging Record Recharge for is appending and cleaning up the data at the point of processing, streamlining that so that it's part of our DNA, right? We'll be taking the dealership data, enhancing, enriching it at the request of the dealership, at the approval of the dealership, so that vendors are getting the benefit of the very systems that we're actually providing in Record Recharge. These value-added services being performed at runtime fit underneath the pillar of transform in the DXM narrative, right? We're transforming the data at runtime to provide additional value-added services, not just on behalf of the dealer, but back to the dealer as well as to anybody they're partnered with.
So at the very least, a year from now, all the dealers that are participating are going to have seen their business transform. I like that.
Yes, sir.
One last question for you.
Sure.
And it's a biggie. So feel free to dig in or skim across the surface of the lake like a little stone. What does AI add to this throughout this process? How are we going to be using AI? And if this is secret sauce and we're not ready to talk about it yet, I get it. But that's got to be a big component when you've got billions and billions of data point and we get to see all of that data moving in real time. I got to assume that we are about to be able to predict things in ways that dealerships haven't experienced yet.
Yeah. AI is fundamentally changing the automotive industry, and we're well positioned. We leverage AI in a variety of capacities, mostly for internal code refactoring and things to that effect, where we're leveraging Claude and other products to be able to go ahead and do things better, quicker, faster, more effectively and efficiently. We're a big fan of dog fooding in general as it relates to product development, as you can imagine. And so our first foray into leveraging AI in our portfolio of products is to make our products more effective and more efficient, right? And that sort of fits within the spirit of dog fooding. How it manifests itself as value-added services to our clients and to our customers certainly fit within the measure and predict buckets, right, of the DXM. So while there's not necessarily the let's say a secret sauce I would be able to speak at length and articulately about, right, in terms of just how it is that we do, I will say this, right? We are very, I'll restate it this way. AI performs better when there's more information and artifact that you have available to a given record, okay? So when a record, let's say it's just the most common use case, which would be a service appointment or a service event, right? Or a repair order or sales for that matter, right? What we get is a row of data, right? And there might be, I don't know, 150 attributes about that particular event. When we append an additional 150 elements to that row, we're providing to the dealerships as well as to our valued partners or our clients and customers, we're providing additional data that AI can leverage to make better, more accurate predictive experiences. So if you think about it, it's our use of AI, right? Our use of software, right? To be able to go ahead and expand upon a particular row, to go as far east and west as we can, appending the data to a given record. Why does that matter to a dealership? There's many options that dealers have. There are many options that vendors have, right? But what we are in is in the data experience management business. And so our ability to, again, append or add hygiene services to every single row of data provides value to the dealership in the form of whatever AI solution they want to use, right? Or to a vendor and whatever solution they choose to use. So it's an indirect relationship, I think, that we have with AI. We're using to make our products better. We're making the data wider.
Yeah.
As a result, the AI that a vendor or a dealer might be using become more bolstery, right? They become better because of the data that we're providing.
We're going to like hummingbird our data into other solutions. We don't even need to know their motivation. Just whatever your solution is, I guarantee you it needs something that we've got.
100%.
Fantastic.
So that said, one of the things that we've been working pretty tirelessly for the last 6 to 12 months is Authenticom intelligence, right?
Yep.
So that would be, again, something that we can actually provide to the actual dealerships in the form of, I almost imagine it like Clippy back in the day of like old Microsoft Word, right?
Yeah, I'm familiar with old. Yeah.
You're familiar with Clippy? But our vision for dealership tools and how we actually, again, continue to cultivate that relationship is predicated around things that we can actually provide at the desktop, at the mobile device, that help them make better decisions. So it becomes more decision support, predictive analytics. These are the things that are the future of automotive. And I think we're very well positioned to be able to help dealerships enter that new generation of services. And we're bleeding edge there.
Well positioned is such a perfect way to sum up everything you've taught me today. And I'm even more excited working for this company now after this conversation. This has been very, very educational. We'll leave it there, man.
Appreciate it, man.
I want to come back to you on Authenticom intelligence one day.
Sure.
And a couple of more points here. But Chad, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with me. And
Pleasure.
I hope everyone watching this is shares all the exciting things coming with Record Recharge, because it's an exciting product, and I'm excited to watch it launch and customers get into it and start using it.
Totally right, Jeremy. I appreciate you carving out some time to hang again this afternoon. We need to do it more often.
Way more often.
Absolutely. Plan on it.
This is going to be a series.
I love it. Let's do it.
Okay, man.
Awesome.
Talk soon, Chad.
All right, brother.